This is video number 84. It's a three-part story about corn, oats, and apples. In my early farm working years with Mr. Thomas, he used an international corn binder to harvest the field corn for silage. There's a short video in the base of his channel showing one of these machines in action. Mr. Thomas pulled his with a Ford N tractor. It cut one row of corn at a time. The stalks were bundled in groups of 10 or 12. The string was wrapped and tied around the bundle. Then it was discharged out the back and out to the side in neat rows, all laying in the same direction. Mr. Thomas would cut 3 or 4 rows, and then we would hook up to the wagon. As he pulled the wagon slowly, I would load the bundles on the wagon, all laying in the same direction. After we got a wagon load, we would take it to the barn area and park the wagon in relation to the chipper blower so I could unload it rather easily. Mr. Thomas had 2 holes dug that he backed the tractor into, thus lowering the back of the tractor to align with the blower height. On the back of the tractor was a power takeoff driven pulley, about 10 inches wide. It matched the input pulleys on the blower. Next, we installed a huge flat belt on the pulleys. It needed a half twist that made a figure 8. This made the blower run in the proper direction. After a short, slow run to make sure the belt would stay on, the tractor was throttled up to full speed, thus taking the chipper blower up to full speed. I would then place the bundles on the infeed conveyor, butt first, and they got chopped and blown up a pipe and into the old wooden silo. After about a week of this, the silo would be about 2/3 full. Being constructed of aged wood staves, there were splinters here and there. Juice was seeping out of the cracks. I had heard about corn squeezins and moonshine. I wondered how that clear dripping juice would taste. I grabbed a little white paper cup, similar to the little cups you would put ketchup in at Burger King. I held it under one of those drips and collected about 1/3 of a cup. I didn't sip it, I just chucked it into my mouth. It never hit the back of my throat. It just paralyzed my tongue and then went straight to my brain. It was one of those heavy-throated, whoa moments. No wonder the cows enjoyed that stuff. They got 2 scoops twice a day. They probably always had a buzz on, especially after being in a silo for most of the winter. One taste was enough for me. There was a local farmer that I had never met. He had a heart attack and wasn't able to get his crops in until rather late. It was September now, and his oat crop was still green and would not have time to mature to the normal gold color prior to harvesting. The best that could happen would be to chop these oats and put them in a silo. The local farmers banded together to harvest his oats for him. That included me. The first morning I was driving a 1940-something Diamond Rio cab-over truck with a silage box mounted on it. A full load of chopped wet oats was probably around 20 ton or so. The old farmer was riding with me. After pulling out onto the dirt road, I realized I had no brakes. The pedal went to the floor and stayed there. I mentioned that fact, and the old farmer said, "You see those bushes along the side? If you need to slow down, just ease over into the bushes. Just don't hit anything over 3 or 4 inches in diameter." I honestly could not sense any kidding in his remarks. He was serious. It did appear that that was the only option. His son showed up after a couple of trips, and I gladly relinquished my driving duties to him. I went into the silo to evenly distribute the silage with a distribution pipe. It was a large silo, about 25 or 30 foot diameter. With me walking back and forth, that helped compact the silage, and I was using the flexible distribution pipe that was attached to the blower pipe at the top of the silo. It had a loop handle on the end. We wanted to get the entire crop in one day, so I was in the silo about 11 or 12 hours. Loads came back to back. When I went into the silo, I had on a powder blue t-shirt, blue jeans, white socks, and boots. When I came out, I had green hair, green skin, green shirt, green jeans, green socks, and green shoes. And it was sticky, too. When I got home and I was peeling off my clothes to take a bath, I discovered that my white Fruit of the Looms were also green. The old farmer was really happy for the help and the job we had done for him. It was a good feeling and a great experience. I was glad to be part of it. The last part of this three-part story came from a conversation I had with my friend Carl a couple weeks ago at breakfast at Perkins. Carl saw my truck and stopped in and joined us for breakfast. Carl and his brother Jimmy and I were like the Three Musketeers back in high school. As in a previous story, we played bluegrass a lot. I asked Carl if he still had his banjo, but he had sold it a number of years ago. He now had arthritis pretty bad in his hands, so playing banjo would be difficult. Somehow we got to the topic of the Black Angus cows he had for a 4-H project back in our school days. Carl would do his morning chores and then get ready for school. This one day I went over their house after school. Carl kept his cows down the road at his Grandpa Carpenter's place. Grandpa Carpenter called up the house and told Carl to get down to his place and get the cows out of the orchard. After morning chores, Carl changed their pasture to an area that included Grandpa's apple orchard. The cows had all day to eat all the green apples on the ground and the ones on the low branches. The apples had all day to ferment in the four stomachs of the cows. Now they were all drunk as skunks. Those poor stubby-legged Black Angus were having a bad time. The orchard was on a slight side hill. The cows were staggering around and banging into each other. Even walking side to side on the level, they were having a tough time. This was about 1965. Video cameras were not invented yet. Filming those drunk cows would have made a good, funny video. So I learned a few things from these experiences. 1, don't drink silage juice. It'll probably kill you. 2, helping someone who can really use it is a good feeling when it is appreciated. Don't feed cows green apples. Well, that concludes my little group of stories and the learnings I got from corn, oats, and apples. And as usual, I wish everyone all the best.